we're going to continue with ServSafe material. We're working through what we call the flow of food. We know that the flow of food is the way, the process in which food flows throughout an operation. So we started with purchasing and receiving. We went and got our ingredients. Then we stored them in our kitchen. We stored them properly, making sure they were put in the refrigerator properly. We inspected our deliveries, made sure that everything was good, put it away on the shelves, all of that. So we've purchased and received, we've stored, and now it's time to actually prepare. Preparing the food is going to include cooking, cooling, reheating. So there's a lot of things that actually go into the preparation of, especially when we look at it from the commercial aspect. So there are four main themes that you're going to kind of see through this particular unit, and an overall four main themes within ServSafe. So let's take a look at all of those. First of all, equipment is clean and sanitized, okay? Point blank. If we have dirty equipment, we end up with dirty food. Done, okay? So everything is clean. Theme number one. Quantity, theme number two. Work in small batches. We're culinary here. We have got a lot going on. I'm not just going and buying one package of chicken for a class of 32 students to work with. Instead, I am buying usually 50 pounds of chicken at one time. Well, we know that chicken is a TCS food. It requires refrigeration. So instead of pulling out all 50 pounds at one time and having it just sit out at room temperature as I'm preparing the chicken, we get it all out, we grab what we need, we put what is left over in the refrigerator, back in the refrigerator so that it is cooling properly, and work with only what we need in that moment, okay? So we're working at small amounts at a time. Storage, theme number three, return prep food to the cooler or cook it immediately. If we are prepping that chicken to be marinated, we prep it, we get it back in the refrigerator. If we are preparing that chicken to cook, we prep it and we get it ready to cook as quickly as we possibly can. Okay? Additives, we're not going to discuss that too much, don't need to write that down. Presentation, this is important. We should never mislead or misinform the guests on what it is. Biggest idea here is color. Take for example colored saran wrap. We do not want to put blue saran wrap on top of mashed potatoes to give this false indication that mashed potatoes are blue when they are actually white. So we do not want to misrepresent any of that. Corrective action, theme number four. If we see something going wrong in this process, we need to correct it immediately, okay? Number of ways that we can correct these things, but we need to correct it as quickly as possible to keep the food safe. Food that has become unsafe must be thrown out unless it can be safely reconditioned. If it has met a time limit, we may have to throw it out, okay? However, if it has not met a time limit, maybe it's not at the temperature that we want it to be at, we might put it on ice or back in the refrigerator, and that's what I mean by safely recondition, okay? But it has to meet other requirements, okay? Four main themes here. All right, let's talk about thawing food. Thawing food is bringing something from a refrigerator in unworkable state. It is frozen solid. I cannot work with it, to a refrigerated state where I can now work with it, okay? Frozen chicken breast, I can't do anything with that. But when I thaw it out, it is now at a refrigerator temp and I can now work with it. Some of you, and I'm not pointing fingers, not saying anything, however, if you have ever been tasked by a parent, hey, if you don't mind, I need you to get the chicken out of the freezer before you go to school today, and I need you to leave it in the kitchen sink so that we can prepare chicken for dinner tonight. If you have ever been tasked for that, unfortunately, that is incorrect. Okay, incorrect in the sense that you would not do it in a commercial setting. Do you do it at home? Absolutely. Have you gotten sick from it? Probably not. Will you continue to do it? Yes, you will. However, if a health inspector were to walk in and see frozen food sitting out for more than 4 hours or an entire day, you would be docked big time. There are 4 safe ways to thaw food. Number 1, the safest way, the cooler, is the absolute safest way. You might also cross out cooler and write refrigerator. In a commercial setting, a refrigerator is called a cooler. Thaw food in a cooler at 41 degrees or below. This requires prior planning. If I'm thawing out 10 pounds of chicken, I need to give it about 2 to 3 days to thaw out in a refrigerator. Why is this the safest zone? It's gone from cold zone to cold zone. It is nowhere near the TDZ, the temperature danger zone. Okay, we're good to go. Second one is running water. If I'm in a pinch, I'm like, oh no, I did not thaw out the chicken in time for my lab today. I've got to thaw it out like within an hour. I'm going to run it under cold water. So over in that meat sink, I'm going to run water. It has to be running, and that water has to be at 70 degrees or below. It cannot be hot water. Hot water is that TDZ. Okay, we do not want to incorporate the temperature danger zone. Microwave. You can thaw out foods in a microwave. However, you must then use the product immediately. So I thaw chicken out in the microwave. When I pull it out, some of it you might notice is slightly cooked, and that's why the product must be used immediately. Put it in the oven, saute it, grill it, whatever has to be done as soon as you've thawed that food. Some foods you don't have to thaw, but rather they thaw during the cooking process. So for example, frozen hamburger patties, maybe the French fries that you get from the grocery store, chicken tenders that you get from the freezer section, all of those are examples of foods that you get a sheet pan out, you put the frozen food on, you put the frozen food into the oven, it goes from frozen to thawed to cooked. You don't have to do any of the other previous steps, okay? 4 main ways to thaw food, the cooler or the refrigerator being the safest, cold zone to cold zone. All right, prepping meat, poultry, and seafood. These are our raw animal proteins, essentially. You're gonna see those main themes again. Use a clean equipment, clean and sanitize workstations, cutting boards, and utensils before and after you have used them. Prep away from ready-to-eat foods. We do not want any of our raw animal proteins to come into contact with our ready-to-eat foods, those things that require no more prepping or cooking. That's what we consider to be cross-contamination. Only remove as much as you need from the cooler, prep at one time, and return to a cooler promptly. So you see those 4 main themes. I'm not going to spend a lot more time here because we've discussed those themes. All right, I just want you to take just a quick look at this visual here. You see a lot of things on this table, and you'll notice there is a risk of cross-contamination here. Can anyone understand or identify what the risk of cross-contamination here? You'll see peppers right here, ready to eat food. You've got cheese, ready to eat food, more cheese, tomatoes, more tomatoes, onions. All of these technically are ready to eat foods, and then suddenly you've got bacon, okay? And that bacon is not a ready to eat food. That is a raw animal protein. And so we run the risk of cross-contamination here. So when we are working on our stations, while I know there's going to be raw animal protein and ready-to-eat food on your station at sometimes, we can't always avoid it. However, be very, very obvious and specific about how you store your things on your table. Make this side of your table everything for ready-to-eat food, and make this side of your table everything for raw animal proteins. That way we separate them so we know that there is no risk of contamination. All right, prepping salads. Same kind of concepts. You see these 4 main themes. An entire salad, it is all TCS food. Everything, almost everything that you put into that salad, maybe beside croutons, are TCS. Your greens are TCS, your vegetables, your meat, all of that is considered TCS. So you want to prep in small batches, reoccurring theme. Everything that you put in that salad has been tended to correctly. If anything has been left over for more than 7 days, you're throwing it out. You're chilling your ingredients. Everything is left in the refrigerator. Again, you see these reoccurring themes. If it's meant to be kept cold, you want to keep it cold. All right, let's look here at eggs and egg mixtures. We call a lot of eggs in one bowl to be considered pooled eggs, okay? Eggs that are cracked open and combined into a common bowl, okay? So before we move on to these other concepts, let's talk about pooled eggs. I've given you a task. You are to make French toast for 50 people, okay? And you need 25 eggs, okay? So I have you cracking open 25 eggs for this French toast. And you've got this one big bowl, and I've asked you to put all 25 eggs in this one bowl. Crack egg, crack egg, crack egg. And egg number 19, you crack it open directly into this bowl, and that egg is a bloody egg. You discover that it's a bad egg. It is bloody. It was not identified in the process of in the manufacturing plant that it was a bad egg. It wasn't taken away. And now you've got this bad egg and 18 other eggs in this bowl. My only option is to discard all of those eggs. Not only is that time, but that is also money. So that's a lot of eggs. That's what we consider to be pooled eggs. So the correct way of dealing with pooled eggs is that you have 2 bowls. So I crack the egg in this small bowl. I inspect the egg. I say, okay, that egg is good, and I add it to my big bowl. I crack egg number 2. I inspect it. I look at it. It's okay. I add it to the bowl. Egg number 3. So when I get to egg number 19 and I discover and I crack open a bloody egg into this bowl, I say, ooh, that's not a good egg. I throw that egg away. I go to the dishwashing area. I wash, rinse, and sanitize this sink. Then I return to my task. My big bowl of pooled eggs has not been contaminated, okay? That way I save both time and money. All right, eggs, you're going to see this term, especially as we move into Culinary 1, the term of pasteurization. Pasteurized eggs means that they've been heated to a certain temperature to kill any harmful bacteria. If you are preparing eggs for a high-risk population, the eggs must be pasteurized. Clean and sanitize. So if I was to actually show you, some of you saw on Friday when I cracked open the egg for the brownie that once I cracked it open, I walked away for a minute and I washed my hands. Eggs are a raw animal protein, so we want to make sure that we wash our hands afterwards. We are going to skip this one. We'll look at that more in Culinary 1. Okay, produce. All produce is a ready-to-eat food, so we want to make sure that we lessen the risk of cross-contamination here. So it should never come into contact with meat, poultry, or seafood. Again, if you're on one table, and show me that you're not cross-contaminating. Produce on one side, raw animal proteins on the other. Wash fruit thoroughly under the water slightly warmer than the product. That just helps to get any harmful bacteria or anything else on the exterior of our product off. We've got a produce washing sink so that we can do all of this. I'm actually going to come back. If you have not written this down already, please don't write it down. If you do write it down, no worries. Just realize that for every single batch, we want fresh water. Okay, that just, again, lessens the risk of contamination. And once produce has been cut, we want to keep it refrigerated. There are some examples of produce that they can sit on your counter uncut and be safe. So a watermelon can sit on your counter and be safe. A banana, an apple, pineapple, all of those can sit on your counter. An onion, all of those, potatoes are great examples of produce that do not require refrigeration until they've been cut. Okay, some vegetables do require refrigeration even before they're cut, but some don't. However, once they are cut, big rule, make sure to refrigerate. Ice. Ice is food. You are consuming that ice, whether it's in your drink or whether you're just chomping on ice. It is a food. It doesn't always feel like it because it's no calories. However, it is food. If ice was first used to keep yogurts cold, then you can't use it in your drink. Consider that when you go, maybe you've been on vacation before, you've stayed in in a hotel, you've gone down to the hotel breakfast, and they've got all the yogurts maybe sitting on ice, or other items sitting on ice. That ice that was used to keep that yogurt cold can no longer be used for the consumption of somebody in their drink or in their food. Okay. Store scoops outside of the ice machine. The reason we store them outside is overnight when excess amounts of ice are prepared. We don't want that scoop to be buried under the ice. Then we have to dig through it, risk of contamination with our hands. Store the scoops outside. Scoops should always be cleaned and sanitized because it's equipment that touches the food that we consume. It must be sanitized as well. And we never want to use our hands to get ice, nor do we want to use glass. Glass and ice look very similar. It could reduce, we're reducing the risk of a physical contaminant, any glass breaking into that ice and being swallowed. Okay. Internal temperatures, go ahead and submit these to memory. Okay. Go ahead and submit these temperatures to memory. These are super duper important for you to remember, okay? Basically, internal temperatures, they ensure two things. Number one, my product is thoroughly cooked through and safe for me to consume. Number two, it is tasty. It's not dried out, it's not nasty and hard and ugh. This ensures, for example, poultry is chicken, okay? Chicken is your biggest example. Turkey is also one here. Chicken, if it is cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees, it is safe for me to eat without getting sick, so it's cooked out any harmful bacteria, and it's nice and tender and moist. So when I consume it, I'm actually enjoying the product that I'm eating. Ground meat, 155. By ground meat, I mean ground sausage, ground pork, and ground beef, okay? Anything in the ground variety typically needs to be at 155 degrees. There is such a thing as ground seafood. If it's ground seafood, it also applies to this 155 rule. By seafood, I also want to add in here anything whole. Whole seafood, whole pork, whole beef, whole eggs, all of those you'll see is this common 145. So a steak, pork chop, a fish fillet, all need to be met to the internal temperature of 145. So you may be asking, well, why does whole have to be 145, but then ground has to be 155? Ground has to be 155 because several things. It's been through a grinder. That grinder may be dirty, thus contaminating the food, so we increase the temperature to cook out any additional harmful bacteria. And it's been exposed to more oxygen. What was on the inside is now ground up and kind of on the outside, so we want to cook it to a higher internal temperature. Fruits and vegetable dishes, 135, as well as any commercially processed food, 135 as well. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop there today, actually. So I'm going to blank out the screen. I'm going to stop there. I realize that was a lot of information for us to intake in one day. We'll go over some more information in the prepping world tomorrow. So meet back here. Make sure that you're taking notes along with everything. And I will see you on the live session shortly. All right, see you soon. Bye.